All right, fastest 15 minutes in social media, fastest 15 minutes on the internet. My name is Judson Powell. All right, so I want to talk about gun violence today. We're about, I was talking to a friend of mine. We basically are getting like one or two of these multiple shootings every day. The today we had two. We had one in Texas, and then we had one in South Carolina, which ended up being a murder-suicide. 5 people ended up dead, and it was a former NFL player by the name of Adams. I don't really remember him or know who he is or anything like that, but apparently he shot a doctor and his wife and I guess their children, and then turned the gun on himself. And then in the Houston area, there was another mass murder. All right, and we all know like what happened in Colorado. We understand, these things have been going on. We're also the things with the Asians in Georgia and all of that. So, we see what's going on, and it's really a disturbing trend. I mean, you can't really, you can't really go out anywhere. You got to keep your head on a swivel because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, these people are, and then a few years back, if you remember, they shot up a movie theater. They shot up grocery stores, and of course they've gone into individual businesses and have also shot multiple people. And so this trend is basically very disturbing. And like I've been saying, we have more guns. We have more guns in the United States of America than there are people. So I think what I read, I think it's like for every person, there's not quite that, but almost two handguns or two guns. I know he say handguns, but two guns for every person. And the more disturbing trend is the trend with the AR-15, which is just an assault rifle, which is basically to kill people. It has no qualities for hunting, has no qualities for anything except for to kill people and to be able to kill multiple people at that because of the size. From what I understand, I don't own one, but from what I understand, the size of the magazine and all that, it makes it a perfect weapon to be able to carry out these mass shootings and mass murders. And so that brings us to the question of what should we do about it? Because we know that for years and years and years, the lobbyists from the National Rifle Association, the NRA, they basically bought Congress, and they bought Congress out, and so basically whatever they say, it gets done because they're paying money, which is one reason why when Obama was president, one of the initiatives was to get away from having lobbyists in Washington, D.C., because what happens is the lobbyists have all the money. And so the politicians are going to listen, and they throw that money around. So if I tell you, yeah, well, you could take your family on an all expense paid trip to, wherever, and so then, or we're gonna build this, thing in your congressional district. We're gonna build something in your congressional district, which will give people jobs and will stimulate the economy in your area, which is a good thing for a person that's accepting money from a lobbyist. And I know there are rules and regulations concerning lobbyists, but the bottom line is, it kind of forces us into the thing. And we are capitalists. So let me preface that by saying we are capitalists, and we are a capitalist nation. And so a lot of times, whoever has the most money, they're going to be the ones that are going to prevail. But we also have a representative democracy, and the representatives are supposed to act according to what their constituents say, which is, or to advise their constituents in the right way, Well, when you have lobbyists involved, a lot of times, they're not gonna tell their constituents the right thing to do. They're gonna tell their constituents to do the thing that's gonna make them the most money. All right, because no matter what people say, the bottom line is, we're trying to make the United States of America safer for everybody else. Now they'll sit up there and say, "Oh, we need to spend billions of dollars on a border wall because all these dangerous people are coming in through the border." But yet and still, a person can buy a handgun in one day and go out and kill a bunch of people, which is what happened in Colorado, which is what happened in that King super shooting. This guy went out, bought a gun, and was killing people. I'm sorry, that was the Georgia incident, and he was killing people that day. So it's easier to get a handgun than to get a vaccine or to get anything else in this country. We can talk about a lot of different things when it comes down to that, but that is the reality that we face. And the other thing is the Second Amendment, and this is my personal opinion. My personal opinion is that when the Second Amendment was written, we didn't have police forces, we didn't have militias, we didn't have the National Guard, we really didn't, tell you the truth, we really didn't have like a army, military, put it this way, a well-defined military. And then there were a lot of places that that didn't have any, or you'd have a whole territory that would have one marshal or one sheriff, that would cover like a whole, or would have a whole huge place, right? And so like I live in Arizona, so the marshal or the constable or the sheriff down here, he might have had to cover the whole state of Arizona. Well, if I'm a criminal, then that's good for me. And so people needed guns in order to protect their property and to protect their claims, because at that time, of course, you had a lot of claims and, with natural resources and all of that. So with that being said, people needed guns, and it was important for people to have guns because they're, let's face it, they're always bad guys. But now it seems like the whole thing, over the course of time, this whole Second Amendment thing has eroded. And the fact of the matter is that now people are getting guns basically just to kill other people. And there are people, just like the guy that was in Las Vegas a couple years ago. And I mean, he literally had an arsenal. I mean, he had enough guns to basically outfit an entire army. And so things like that, in my opinion, should be eliminated. You should not be able to have, and the other thing is, and when Clinton was president, we did have a ban on assault rifles, like the AR-15 and like other, these other assault rifles, because like I said, they're just to kill people. They have no redeeming quality or value at all. Not for a use that will not harm a person. So that's important. So when Clinton was president, they passed the assault rifle. I think they did it one time, and then the rest of the time, basically the NRA and the Republicans smacked it down. And the same thing was true when every time put it this way, every time there's a Democratic president, they try to put this stuff through. And then as soon as the Republicans come back in office, they reenact it. And the other thing I was saying is, to my friend was like, look, the pandemic has caused a lot of non-gun owners to become gun owners. And because of, because of the threat of, just people doing crazy stuff now. Everybody. The problem is like everybody is reacting to this stuff differently, and is bad. And we're even getting a larger amount of depression-based suicides and stuff like that. The former NBA player Glenn Rice, from what I understand, took his life after he had a fight with his fiance. So you gotta so you see what I'm saying. So these guns, they're not doing anything positive, for the society. And then we can look around the world, and there are places in the world where people don't have guns. Where some places the police don't even have guns, and they don't have as many homicides and suicides and everything else as we have. And then let's not talk about the gang violence and stuff like that in places like Chicago and Detroit and LA and all that. There's a large amount of gang violence, and a lot of it now is so frequent that it's not even talked about. It's just like it's a fact of life, and so we go on allowing this stuff to go down, and it's easier for a kid. It's easy for a kid to buy a gun on the street, than to get in school, which is ridiculous. But that is a residue of our society. And we always talk about how smart we are and how we're the greatest country in the world and all of this kind of stuff. But these are problems that need to be solved bipartisanly. Those guns don't discriminate if you're a conservative or a liberal or a Democrat or Republican or independent or whatever. Guns don't discern that. And for the people that are like, well, these are my, you're taking away my rights. It's like, but if your rights are destroying somebody else, then there's a problem. See, rights are only good when they they benefit you, but when they don't work to the detriment of somebody else. And that's a lot of times what I say about a lot of the stuff that's going on in the country, because I look at it like, okay, somebody feels like they're not allowed to do something, and then everybody else feels like, okay, but we're let me put it like this: when it starts to infringe on other people or other people's rights, then it needs to be looked at. So when people are out there killing each other and stuff like that, that's definitely infringing. People don't feel safe. People don't feel safe. They don't feel safe anymore. So they're doing all this stuff like, okay, well, why do I have to do this or why do I have to do that? But it's the fact that people don't feel safe. And it's not Democrats that don't feel safe. Republicans don't feel safe. When people were being polled about how safe they feel in there, and a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I gotta get a gun because if I don't get a gun, then the bad guys are gonna get me. But now it seems like it's not just the bad guys, but people are turning into the bad guy because or committing suicide or doing all these other things because they have the ability to do it. But that's not what we want when we're saying, okay, well, we're going to give certain people rights, or we're going to establish rights for this or rights for that. And guns are a dangerous instrument. And let's not talk about all the little kids that that end up finding weapons every year and accidentally take their life and all that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff like that goes on, but we don't look at that stuff and allow it to influence the way we put controls and restraints on handguns. So think about that. Just then all that is that, like I said, it's just my opinion. Anyway, fastest 15 minutes is up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, hit all the buttons, and most of all, as usual and as always, hit the love button.